Hi, my name is Zachary Will. I'm here with Zachary Will Weddings. Recently I saw this story on my timeline, and it was about this bride who hired a photographer for $250, and she was having trouble getting the photos afterwards, and even once she got the photos, there were only about 3 or 4 that were actually usable photos. And that's very unfortunate because this is a super important event, and you only have one chance to get these photos. And that's why it's super important to get a professional photographer and videographer. And you might say, well, but professional videographers and photographers cost, $1,000 to $3,000, and that seems absurdly amount of money for a single day of work. And that's what people think. But the reality is, for photographers and videographers, a wedding is a lot more than a single day of work. Often for videographers especially, it tends to take about a week to create a wedding video. For example, I might spend a day or so, going over the contract, meeting up with coffee to kind of talk about your wedding and find out all the details and the timelines and and all those little things beforehand. And then when it comes to the wedding, it's about maybe 8 hours or so, maybe a little bit of time prepping my gear beforehand and then dumping the cars afterwards, so about a 10-hour day of work. And then afterwards it's about, usually depends, usually somewhere between 25 to 30-ish hours of editing. So all in all, it's about 40 to 50 hours of work doing a wedding video. And so when you look at that, $1,000 doesn't seem too unreasonable anymore. And then of course you might be like, well, what about those $3,000 packages, and why are those so expensive? That's like, if you get one every weekend, that's like $150,000. That's a lot of money to be making. And unfortunately in our business, there's no such thing as getting one every weekend. First off, I feel like the maximum I've ever heard anybody get is 40 weddings in a year. And that's just crazy too. Just the fact of organizing that many weddings and keeping those all in your forefront of your mind, and then one bride says something to you and you forget what the other bride tells you, and that's just a lot to keep in mind. Most videographers and photographers tend to only do about 26 a year. And so if you're looking at $3,000 per wedding, 26 weddings, that's only about $60,000 or so. And then, of course, you also consider the fact of things like marketing and branding and website design, liability insurance, and that money starts dwindling pretty quickly. And so I don't mean to say this as to say that like wedding videography and photography don't make any money, and I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say this is a professional business. Many photographers and videographers have gone to school for this, got bachelor's degrees, years of experience, and built their own business and their branding and advertise money, and they spend a lot of money on gear, they spend a lot of money on advertising, and so that is why wedding videography and photography are so expensive. And that's why you should stay away from photographers and videographers that are super, super cheap, because it'll show that they obviously, one, don't have the experience, or haven't spent that money on the gear or the advertising, and so they're not as well established. This is your only chance to capture your wedding. And would you rather have somebody who has been doing it for 10 years, has been doing hundreds of weddings, and hundreds of brides in the past have been happy with them? Or would you rather pick somebody who is just getting started doing 1 or 2 weddings, and they don't really have that experience to back them up? And so that's where the value comes in as to why some people are super expensive and why some are very cheap. So I just hope that this helps you decide on whether or not you want a particular videographer or photographer. Hopefully we can help you out. You can go to zacharywill.com/weddings, check out some of my work. Or maybe if I'm not available, I can recommend you to a photographer or videographer within the Atlanta area. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this video.